Welcome to New York Got Game.
Welcome back to another edition of New York Got Game. Got my guy Bryan Fonseca with me. We got preseason games, Bryan, coming up this week. 2 for the Knicks in Abu Dhabi against the Sixers. So what we're going to do here on this episode is we're going to talk about the 5 things that we want to watch with the Knicks in these first couple of preseason games. Look, there's a lot to get into. Bryan and I came up with a list. We've ranked them in order. We're going to go with our top 5 things. We're going to go from 5 to 1. This is going to be really interesting. Some of them were contributions from me. Some of them were contributions from Bryan. We came together, and then we ranked them. So let's get into it with number 5. This was a contribution from Bryan, and I thought it was interesting because Bryan focused a lot on the young players here,
yes,
which I think people will be happy to get a look at and see what some of these players look like that you want to see develop here, particularly in year 2. And we're talking about Pacome Dadiet. We're talking about Tyler Kolek. We're talking about Ariel Hukpurdy. Hopefully I said that right for y'all out there. But Bryan, the number 5 one we have is...
It's going to be a theme all season.
It's going to be a theme all season. Will Tyler Kolek be targeted as soon as he steps on the floor? That is a question. Now, Bryan, I assume that you submitted this and brought this up into our talking points because we saw him get targeted on the floor last year when he played. I specifically remember the game against the Clippers.
James Harden just was going after Come here, Tyler.
They just put
pick
him
and
in
roll
pick and
time.
Time and time again. We know this is a weak spot for him. Well, one, I think it's very likely to happen. I mean, it's preseason, so I don't know if somebody's going to be that aggressive with it. But it's a weakness to be exploited.
I mean, yeah, and Philly is going to have some players with size. Unfortunately, Jared McCain hurt again. I also don't know what to expect from Philadelphia, given just Paul George is injured. Joel Embiid's coming back from an injury, recovering. We don't know to what extent we're going to see some of the main guys. I assume we'll see Tyrese Maxey. He had a season-ending injury last year, but it was also one of those injuries that felt like we suck and we're just not going to bring you back under any circumstances. We'll get a first look at VJ Edgecombe, who Tyler Kolek may actually have to guard at some point, which I don't know if that's going to go well. But that's the main thing. It's like what's going to keep Tyler Kolek in the NBA is being able to – we understand like this is putting aside the playmaking ability. We understand that's why he was picked where he was picked. We understand that at a foundational level, he projects to be a very good playmaker for others. The jump shot is a key thing here, but the defense, being able to survive on defense, as other smaller guards have been able to figure out. Jose Alvarado, for example, who actually thrives on defense in a lot of instances. A guy like Peyton Pritchard also, who competes, is very competitive defensively, so on and so forth. And as it pertains to Tyler Kolek, he's going to be hunted. Like, he's going to have the bullseye on him for however long he's in the NBA until he figures out how to survive under certain circumstances. So I think with me, it's going to be interesting to see, okay, is Philly going to put a bigger guard on him, or are they going to try to get a switch on him? Like, how are they going to sort of navigate that? Like, are they going to pick on him the way that we think he'll probably get picked on in the regular season, assuming he gets regular season minutes, which is not a guarantee this year?
I assume that you're also looking to see, okay, if he gets picked on, how does he handle it? Has he shown any improvement defensively? Do we see any of that from him? If he gets picked on, what do you want to see from him defensively that makes you say, okay, you know what, Tyler Kolek, you look like you're a okay defender out here, which is all we're asking, I think.
Yeah.
If you get that, you kind of feel good.
Yeah, and it's like part of it is also what it leads to. So it doesn't have to be just VJ Edgecombe is attacking him over and over and over again. It's also what it leads to in terms of, okay, now does, say, Gershon Yabusele, assuming that they get minutes together, does he have to overhelp, or Ariel Hukpurdy, do they have to help now? And then that leads to an open 3 from somebody else in the Philadelphia corner. Like what it leads to is going to matter. So I think him being competitive on the defensive end, one, helps his chances for making this final roster, because we talked about the need potentially for a transaction to clear the books, or just to sort of make the roster a little bit more, sensible. And having a rotation that is not, 12 deep or 13 deep or whatever. Like, you kind of have to consolidate a little bit. They're not going to have a 12 deep rotation, although in preseason they might. So is Tyler Kolek going to be like a casualty of that also? Like, him playing well can really help himself. If he has 14 minutes, give or take, some of the young guys could get run in this game or in these couple games.
Yeah.
If he has 14 minutes, he has like 11 points, he has 4 assists, and on defense, he's not really killing you. Yeah, that's going to be good for him.
Yeah, that would be, well, I think Knicks fans should look forward to seeing that if that can happen. Not saying that it will, but if it does happen and Tyler Kolek is holding his own defensively out there, that's a good sign. Maybe they don't need to keep both Malcolm Brogdon and Landry Shamet. That's a decision that Brian's talking about there. All right, so coming in at number 4, I had one around Jalen Brunson. And the thing I'm looking for with Jalen Brunson is how many spot-up jumpers will Jalen Brunson take? And the reason I had that is we talked about this recently. We also talked about this on this recent episode where I had Jeff Johnson. What's Jalen Brunson going to be doing off the ball, and how does that look, right? Brunson converted almost 50% of his spot-up jumpers last season. So he was good on that. Mm-hmm. The problem was, and particularly on threes, a lot of threes that Brunson took, they were on his own. Only 43.6% of his threes were assisted, right? So that also tells you a lot about the isolation. Yeah, you're laughing, right? But it tells you
almost half.
Yeah, right.
Jeez.
Yeah,
it felt like it too as we were watching every single game and talking about every single game last year.
Yeah, I think other people will look at that and say, well, it felt like that because we were watching it. And you'll say, okay, Dex, well, other ball-dominant guards, right? You know, Tyrese Halliburton's a ball-dominant guard. Doesn't shoot a ton of threes, but even he gets stuff off of moving off the ball.
Yes.
You know, and that bodes very well for a player like Tyrese Halliburton, who's fantastic. And you want the ball in his hands because of how brilliant of a passer.
That's the thing. He also makes more plays for others.
But he had more threes assisted. Another person like Cade Cunningham, another guy with the ball in his hands a lot. He had more spot-up jumpers that were assisted. So when you look at all that, and Mike Brown has talked about wanting to add him off the ball, and I actually agree with Mike Brown's philosophy here, because if you have him doing more stuff off the ball and he's able to get spot-up jumpers early in games, that has him a lot fresher late.
Right, exactly.
He's got the ball in his hands. We talked about this. I like that. It's a good strategy. It is smart. It also doesn't keep everybody stagnant and around, which I think actually matters. So for me, I'm looking at that with him. Is he going to be taking a lot of spot-up jumpers? What are they doing with him exactly off the ball? That's something I'm keeping my eye on. What is Jalen Brunson doing when the ball's out of his hands?
Yeah, I think that's going to be key. I think for a lot of people, similar to Tyler Kolek, although at a much, much bigger scale, you want him to survive on defense in a different way, because he's going to be out there a lot more often, obviously, and they're going to pick on him too in looking at, like,
good point.
It's going to be him and Towns. And then on top of what you're saying, yes. You need to be able to. This is why Mikal Bridges matters. And this is why OG Anunoby also to some degree matters. And Karl Anthony Towns is obvious. But you're looking at guys who can potentially create a shot, and you want them to be able to do that. Like we talked about last time we did this, basically, Jalen Brunson, like, he played off the ball off of not just Luka Doncic, but Spencer Dinwiddie as well. Like, guys who can create, can go downhill, can get the ball to the rim, and also could create shots from the perimeter. And if Jalen Brunson can do that and play off of others, yeah, it keeps him fresher for, one, late in games, and two, late in the season, because the usage will drop a little bit and he won't have as many on-ball reps. And ultimately, like, the on-ball reps is tiring. It's tiring in a fast-paced NBA now.
Yeah, and the Knicks are trying to play faster. Like,
right.
Mike Brown said that. It's a difference. This is the thing of where I always get with pace. Pace is not just running up and down the court. It is about how you move the ball in the half court. And the Knicks saying they want to move the ball in the half court. That's why I'm so intrigued to see how it looks and how it looks for Brunson. I'm more bullish on Brunson playing off the ball than I know some other people are. Some people are skeptical about it. I'm not, for the reasons you brought up, because we've seen him play off of Luka Doncic. Now, you can sit here and tell me, well, he's now become a two-time All-Star and two-time All-NBA, and he now is used to being the guy with the ball in his hands, and I get all that. But what about Jalen Brunson has shown he's not going to do what's right for the team?
Yeah, he's a high IQ player. He's smart. He also clearly cares about winning. And I do think he understands, in order to do that, sometimes other people need to be the engine, so to speak. And it's not for, like, an entire game or series or whatever. It's just in spurts. Like, you really win. In terms of winning in the margins, you really have to focus on this, like, just minutes at a time. It's like, can Jalen Brunson, in this, we'll call it an 8-minute stint, can you get him more off the ball for 2 of those minutes, 3 of those minutes, so that later on, if it's a very close game, not in a preseason setting, because I don't even know if they're going to play in the fourth quarter, to be honest with you.
Probably not.
But when the games start to actually matter, then can he be fresher to close out late in games? Because that's where you really need him. You need him to lead hot starts, and you need him to help finish out games. And then in between, can you find periods of rest, so to speak, in the middle while he's still being productive?
Yeah, no, I think so. So that's something I'm definitely keeping my eye on with Jalen Brunson in the first couple of preseason games. Now, you had another one. This is Bryan going back to a young player, number 3, and I think it's a good one because I love this one from Bryan. How will Pacome Dadiet be used? And I think this matters so much. Not that the other stuff doesn't matter, but I think this matters a ton. Bryan, I'm going to let you share why you think it matters a ton because, look, we got a 6'8" guy. We need to see some things. Yes. You know what I'm saying? We need to see some things from him. But you tell me why it matters for you.
Listen, Pacome Dadiet, it's time. It is time. Like we need to see something from him meaningful, I think, in the preseason. Because I think this is a year.
What does that mean? Just to clarify for the people, what does something meaningful look like?
Just pop off the screen. Just let us know you're there. Right? Like, as you're watching the game, just do things that make us notice you in a good way. Don't be.
Yeah, you can notice people in a bad way too, for sure.
Don't be the offensive lineman who continues to get beat over and over again. Like, who was that for the Jets mad years ago? Vlad Dukas. Like, that was a dated reference. But I do think with Pacome Dadiet, it's just a matter of, like, don't get beat backdoor over and over again where it's obvious. Don't leave shooters, out there just from a defensive standpoint. But offensively, I'm curious to see, okay, is the ball going to be in his hands, or is he going to be more of a cutter or maybe a spot-up shooter or a mixture of things? I think you should try out a mixture and see what works. He hasn't demonstrated to be a good three-point shooter really for a long time, like even when you go back to his pre-NBA days. So that's what I was going to say. The foundation is sort of there, and he's going to have open looks because they're going to sag off of him. He's going to be in lineups with, like, Jordan Clarkson, Gerson Yabusele, like 2 guys who are more potent from three-point range historically, and also just in general. You're going to have a lot of other guys. If he staggers, is in staggered lineups, and he's out there with, like, Jalen Brunson, for example, and is out there with Josh Hart, for example. Like, even Josh Hart, like, he'll command more attention from three-point range than Pacome Dadiet. He has to prove it. So is he going to make people pay in that regard? And then as a cutter, I think this is sort of the key here, because you're going to be playing with Jordan Clarkson, because you could play even with Tyler Kolek, for example, moving without the ball, and because you're 6'8", going up strong and finishing. We looked at in Summer League sort of the driving chops that he has. Like, the skill set there is very interesting. I think of those 3 guys that they added last year, him, Tyler Kolek, and Ariel Hawkporty, that group, we've said repeatedly, while Hawkporty probably has the best pathway to getting minutes, especially since this 2 big lineup might be a thing. We'll see. But Pacome Dadiet to me is the most interesting skill set in a wing league. Where Shai Gilgeous-Alexander, for example, just won a championship. Jalen Williams is the number 2 on that team and the top whatever player. Before that, you had the 2 J's with Jaylen Brown, Jason Tatum. You had Jimmy Butler, playing a big role on a finals team. Obviously the Celtics again before that. Like, Pacome Dadiet, can you be a wing that matters? Not to that degree, but all of these teams who are really, really good, like, yeah, you have wings, 2-way wings that matter. So I'm curious to see what his usage is and what Mike Brown thinks he's capable of and what he's going to try to have him do.
Now, we'll add why I think he's important before we move on. I think it's so important, and you and I have talked about this before. If you get something out of Pacome Dadiet this year, on nights where, again, we're going to be minutes police here, but on nights where maybe you want to rest Mikal Bridges a little bit, you want to rest OG Anunoby, or you don't want to play him as heavy minutes, if you can trust him to come in and hold it down for a little bit, he can be good. I love what you said about cutting. We saw him in preseason. Summer League. We just got to we not even started preseason yet. What are we talking about? We saw him in Summer League cutting very well. I believe it was a game against Boston. He had a lot of good cuts, slashing to the basket. So I think if you see that from him and he's giving effort on defense, that'll be good. Look, watching the young guys are going to get probably more minutes than the starters, so this stuff is important, right?
I think, what I think Mike Brown could do also if he's playing like the young guys together, kind of like what Jalen Duren and Asar Thompson kept doing to the Knicks. But can Ariel Hawkporty actually from the free throw line be a threat as a passer? and will it be able to work? We talked about him using Karl-Anthony Towns this way
with that.
because he's done it with Domantas Sabonis, but on a lesser scale, could you do that with Hawk Porty? And then you have, as a cutter, Pacome Dadiet trying to just get that backdoor cut, continuing to move without the ball. I wonder if that's really an area. It's the backdoor cutting, it's the cutting in general, the slashing. I think there's some fun ways that Dadiet could be used to be a functional player this year.
Yeah, going to be very interesting. All right, moving on to number 2. And this is for all you out there, all you minutes police out there. I know you're going to be watching this. Now, yes, I think one that Bryan and I left out here is it's obvious. Everybody's going to know who the starting 5 is. It wouldn't shock me if Mike Brown did one starting 5 for the first game in Abu Dhabi and a different one for the second game in Abu Dhabi. That wouldn't shock me at all whatsoever.
I'd probably do that, honestly.
Yeah, I'm not saying I know anything on that. It just wouldn't shock me.
Yeah.
But since y'all love the minutes, what is the bench rotation? What is that going to look like, right? Who comes off the bench first? Who are the first 3 guys, first 4 or 5? Is there an order to this? I think this doesn't matter who comes to the bench. Do we think it's going to be Deuce? Do we think it's going to be Clarkson? Well, I mean, also depends who starts. This is why this is so fascinating.
That's what it is for me. It's like, what if so let's just say the starting lineup is with the double big lineup. So Josh Hart is off the bench. I think people are going to freak out if Jordan Clarkson and Gershon Yabusele are the first guys off the bench.
Relax.
Then it's going to be yo,
just
wait.
relax.
But I am curious to see what it looks like. And it's more so about the back end of the rotation, because if we're looking at the team, Brunson's going to obviously Brunson, Bridges, OG, even Josh Hart, whether or not he starts, he's going to be a fixture in this team, top 7 in minutes or whatever it is. Mitchell Robinson, we're expecting to see a lot. Karl-Anthony Towns, obviously. Jordan Clarkson, Gershon Yabusele. And then from there, and I probably missed a name or two, but still, I think from there, it's of the young guys, Hawk Porty, Dadiet, and Kolek, who comes in first? Or is it all 3 of them together? Do we see Brogdon early? Because we think he's good enough and worthy enough to make the roster. Do we see Shamet early? And sometimes in the preseason, what some coaches may do on occasion is they'll run a real rotation in the first half, and then in the second half, they'll put in the guys who might not make the roster, who will be the Exhibit 10s, who will be in the G League or whatever.
A chance to play
in the fourth quarter and stuff like that, third and fourth quarters. And it's okay, if Mike Brown does that, and let's say they're 10 deep for the first half, who's in that 10? I think that's going to be interesting to watch for.
It is going to be interesting. And I'm glad you brought up another point in Malcolm Brogdon and Landry Shamet. Where do those guys come in, how they're used? Yeah, I wouldn't read too much in as if you said the situation happens. I'm just telling people, calm down. I know some of y'all going to go crazy in the comments. But if you see, you might see Malcolm Brogdon off the bench first. I don't see that happening, but I wouldn't read too much in it, whether it's Clarkson, Yabusele, Deuce. I wouldn't read too much into that.
Let me ask you this. So what if he has, and I don't think this will be the case, but we'll ultimately get our answers as the games unfold. What if he has the same rotation for both games?
I'll tell you what, if he has the same rotation for both games, when we look at film next week, that's going to be very interesting. It also will add a lot of stuff to talk about in the early episode that we do next week, in which it'll be okay, we got the starting lineup. Now, the beat reporters will be all over this. Stephen Bondi, who's out there in Abu Dhabi, he'll be all over this. If that happens, he's going to get asked that. He's going to get asked that after the first game, right? No matter what lineup, they're going to be hey, Mike Brown, is this your starting lineup? And Mike Brown's going to be no, I haven't decided yet. This is as predictable as it can happen. And then he might switch to the second game or go with the same thing like you're saying, and he's going to get asked it again. He's going to get asked about the starting lineup until he definitively gives an answer.
I'll be surprised if if we have the exact same rotation, not starting lineup. Starting lineup is different, but if we have the
same rotation,
yeah,
2 games in a row,
yeah.
Sorry, I thought you said lineup, and I might have missed that.
No, but that's sort of what I'm getting. Starting lineup less so, because I almost expect to change, but even if he doesn't, there are 3 other preseason games. I think if we get to the third game and it's if it's still the double big lineup, let's say for example. Yeah. Then I think that's a big indicator of where this might lead. But the rotation minutes, if it's very similar, the top 10, that will be very interesting.
Yeah, and I think that's more the thing to watch, particularly when you get to the third preseason game.
Yeah.
I also don't know how Mike Brown is going to play these 2 preseason games. Is he playing one with what he thinks is his real rotation? Is he going to play the second one, since there's a day between both, Thursday and Saturday, where he's I'm gonna let some of these young kids play, and then we'll, because it's a lot of travel. We come back home next week, and they play the Timberwolves the following Thursday. Maybe then he gets back, and this is the third game. Is kind of where you want to set the minutes. The fourth game and fifth game, you kind of just, make sure nobody gets hurt.
Yeah,
that's the main job.
And for guys on the periphery, so to speak, that's when they
get the chance to cook
because they'll get cut around that time. Whoever's not going to make the team. So
right, so it's going to be interesting how Mike Brown handles all that. All right, got a couple minutes left. Number one, and I thought this was very interesting for me. How is Karl Anthony Towns going to be used defensively? This is one of my major things to watch in these first couple of games, because we know Mike Brown's a good defensive coach. We saw Cat last year used in drop coverage. That was not good. There was nothing good about that. It was not good.
Yeah.
Cat doesn't seem comfortable in drop coverage. So what does Mike Brown do with him, particularly in pick and roll action? Is he going to blitz and hedge? I think you could see a little bit more of that.
Maybe.
I think you said this last week when we were talking that Cat has shown times where he can move his feet a little bit better. I remember it was you or Jeff Johnson. I think Jeff Johnson actually might have been the person who said
probably
this.
Him.
I think it was Jeff. And Jeff was like, and I agree with him. He's like, Cat has shown at times he can competently move his feet.
It's just easier when he's out there with Rudy Gobert or Mitchell Robinson.
And this is
where
point.
I'm intrigued. It's like,
and no, you're getting to the point I was going to make.
Right.
Because part of how he's used defensively is also who's he out there with, right?
Yeah.
So this could kind of be like a two-part question. How's he used defensively, right? Is Mike Brown – I don't think Mike Brown's going to utilize him in drop. I just don't see that happening, right, in drop coverage. But is he kind of more of a blitz and hedge? I could see that, where he could be more comfortable in that. And if you're playing him with Mitchell Robinson, well, then that stuff, in theory, should be a little bit easier for him. And we saw some of this in the playoffs. Or are you trying to play him to maximize the offense? You're playing him with 4 shooters.
Or.
What's the other or?
The other or is, does he play more with Gershon Yabusele than we expect? And then we could be in for an adventure.
That adventure, that scares me. Yeah, I don't know. But I think.
Offensively, that'd be fun.
Well, I mean, Yabusele kind of goes into what I was saying about the 4 shooters, though, right, B? Because if you're doing that, you're really going all in on offense, but then what are you doing with Cat there in some pick and roll situations? I mean,
offensively, it could be real fun. And somebody actually commented this, like, you can have a real, like, a true 5-out offense if you have Towns and Yabusele out there. And we talked about before, hey, having a 5-out look, just a look, not to start or close games, like that kind of matters. But you have to be able to make it work defensively. And when Boston was doing it and kicking everyone's ass with it, it's because they had like Kristaps Porzingis, they had Al Horford, you guys that were two-way players.
That's the point. That's the thing. So for me, Cat, how he's going to be used, how Mike Brown will deploy him, that's going to be very, very interesting. It could be an adventure. Him and Yabusele. That sounds like an adventure y'all don't want to watch. That's what it sounds like.
Defense.
But we'll see. But we got our top 5 things. Just to go back over, order. How will Kolek be targeted as soon as he steps on the floor? Number 4, how many spot-up jumpers will Jalen Brunson take? Number 3, how will Pacome Dadiet be used? Number 2, what's the bench rotation? How's it look? Some of y'all might freak out. I hope not. And number 1, how will Karl Anthony Towns be used defensively in these first? That's
basically what we gave you is the outline of like how to watch the preseason.
How to watch
because I think the main reasons to watch NBA preseason are how are the young guys developing? This is any team. And then also how are the main guys being used in a different way? Like what's being added,
especially with a new system.
Yeah, exactly. Like what's the evolution there? And I think that's sort of what we're going to hone in on, and we'll be talking about it after these first 2 games.
Yeah, it'll be fun to watch. So we got some preseason basketball. It's not the real basketball yet, but it's close. You'll take it. Preseason basketball coming up Thursday and Saturday for the Knicks in Abu Dhabi against the Sixers. We'll be watching. We'll be all tuned in. That's Bryan Fonseca. I'm Dexter Henry. We'll catch you next time on New York Got Game.
And thanks for watching New York Got Game. Boom shakalaka.